My Little Puggy by DarthWill3 Part 3 Chapter 7 A Snooze at Sweet Apple Acres. The rain grew heavier as the group of 6 arrived at Sweet Apple Acres. Rainbow, Tank, and the Wonder Pugs were all soaking wet. "Don't worry, Wonder Pugs," called Rainbow over the storm. "We're almost there. Look, follow the lights coming from the house." The puppies, although shivering from the cold raindrops, fervently obeyed. The lights weren't hard to miss. Rainbow knew that there was some pony at home. They trudged over the slightly muddy road, except for the airborne Tank. It was hard work for the puppies, but they struggled on. Even if they were scared of the ensuing thunder and lightning, they wouldn't stop. Rainbow could see it in their determined little eyes. It wasn't until they were halfway to the house that Rainbow signaled Tank to pick up the puppies one by one and lay them on the Blue Pegasus's back. First went Soren, then Fleetfoot, Spitfire, and Rapidfire. "You've already made me proud," she spoke to the pugs, face to face with each and every one of them. "Right now, you need rest." At last, they all made it up to the doorstep of the house. Rainbow knocked on the door. "Applejack!" she called. "Applejack, are you in there? It's me, Rainbow Dash!" Almost instantly, the Willy pony with a brown hat opened the door and was surprised to see Rainbow and Tank right in front of her porch. "Rainbow Dash? Tank? What in tarnation are y'all doing in this here storm?" "Am I ever glad to see you, AJ," said Rainbow, sighing with relief. "I need your help. I've got puppies that need a place to stay, and I was wondering if you could—" "Puppies?" asked Applejack, raising an eyebrow. "What puppies?" Rainbow turned to her right and showed the 4 wet, shivering tiny pug puppies on her back. Fleetfoot gave a big sneeze. "Oh, you poor critters!" cooed Applejack. "Come on, let's get you to the barn." And with that, she hurried packed 2 bags full of towels and put on her raincoat, offering another one to Rainbow, who put it on, covering the puppies from the rain on their way out. Applejack opened the barn doors to let her and the rest of the cavalcade inside. The barn was full of stables for all sorts of animals: cows, goats, sheep, and pigs. The Wonder Pugs hopped off Rainbow's back and began shaking the water off of their bodies. It was a good thing that Rainbow and Applejack were wearing their raincoats. Tank didn't need one. He had his own shell. "Thanks a lot, Applejack," said Rainbow. "Don't know what I'd do without you." "No, shucks," acknowledged Applejack, as she unloaded the towels from her bags. "Couldn't just leave y'all out in the rain, now could I?" As the puppies were being tucked into separate towels, Rainbow went on and asked, "Say, AJ, these little guys need a home, and since we're here, think you can use some extra dogs in your farm?" Applejack gave a look of surprise mixed with concern. She hesitated for a few seconds before answering. "Look, RD, I know you mean well, but what you're asking, it's kinda complicated." "Huh?" Rainbow wasn't too sure on what to think of this reaction from her friend. "But you've got a lot of room to spare, don't you?" "Yeah, I know that," admitted Applejack. "And you know I wouldn't lie to you about that. It's just that— well, I'll explain it in the morning. Right now, those little whippersnappers need to be dried up and tucked to sleep just for the night." "Yeah," Rainbow sighed with resignation. "You're right. Think you can give them a couple of—" She was cut off when Applejack rushed over and wrapped the puppies in the towel she brought. "Don't wet little wing drops make you all saddy-waddy," she soothed in her somewhat motherly way. "Auntie Applejack's gonna dry you up. Yes, she is. A coochie coochie coo coo coo." The Wonder Pugs were so glad not to be wet anymore that they yipped with enthusiasm. Rapidfire even gave Applejack a lick on the cheek as a sign of thanks, causing her to laugh while saying, "You're welcome." Rainbow, however, was a bit taken aback by Applejack's baby talk. "That's what you said to Bloomberg during the ride to Appaloosa, right?" Applejack's face turned red. Bloomberg was one of her favorite apple trees. "Rarity told you about that, didn't she?" "Uh-huh." Rainbow replied dryly. Moving back to the subject at hand, she brightly said, "Well, Tank and I'll go pick up the Wonder Pugs by tomorrow. I'm sure they'll be fine in the barn without—" Suddenly, there was another loud thunder crash outside. Tank instantly hid into his shell. Seconds later, Rainbow noticed the shaking puppies gripping each of her legs. I think you should stay with them until tomorrow, Rainbow," advised Applejack uneasily. Rainbow looked at Applejack for 1 second. Then she looked at the puppies. It was then that she remembered what she said to Tank earlier this afternoon. She couldn't keep the puppies, but she couldn't abandon them either. They were so young and so helpless. She and Tank would have to look after them, no matter what, until they found them a home. Finally, Rainbow looked at Tank, who simply nodded. "Okay, AJ," she spoke bravely. "You can count on us." Hearing Rainbow's words made the Wonder Pugs bounce and snort with joy. "I wouldn't have it any other doggone way, partner," smiled Applejack as she walked out of the barn. She poked her head out from behind the right door and called out over the rain, "Remember, just for the night." With that, the doors were closed. Rainbow slipped out of her jacket and laid herself on a bunch of hay, snuggling in. "Man," she exclaimed, "this stuff is warm." The puppies jumped into the bale next to her and panted with agreement. Tank just gave his usual smile and kept a close eye on the little pugs as he landed on Rainbow's hay. "Well, guys," exclaimed Rainbow, "time to hit the sack." Then she gave off a big yawn. "Night, Tank." The tortoise simply nodded off after Rainbow said those words. "Night, Wonder Pugs." The puppies yipped and snuggled each other on their own hay bale. Rainbow closed her eyes. It had been quite a long day, and she had been moving around non-stop. First, she had been flying around to avoid puppies that she saved. Then, she and Tank spent many hours in an attempt to find them a home. Right now, she needed some sleep. They all did. She was just about to fill her head with the frequent dreams of joining the Wonderbolts when another loud burst of thunder came from outside. She winced at the sound, but tried not to let it get to her. It was just one of these things you got used to when you were a Pegasus in Cloudsdale. Suddenly, Rainbow felt something soft shaking her belly. Next came whimpering. She opened her eyes and found the Wonder Pugs clinging to her body, as if they felt their lives were in the balance. "Didn't I tell you that I'm not your mother?" groaned the blue Pegasus with the rainbow-streaked mane. "Go back to your own stack of hay, won't you?" The puppy's eyeballs went for a close-up and were pointed directly at Rainbow, hinting another begging gesture that she knew all too well from this afternoon. She couldn't take it anymore. "Tank," she pleaded, "help me out here." But the tortoise, to his credit, didn't intervene. Even if he was wide awake by the thunder, he just lay there on the hay, staring at his owner and the puppies in their awkward situation. Then, he slept once more. Apparently, he no longer felt like being rejected for a new pet, which was good for Rainbow. At the same time, though, it meant that no pony was going to help her with the puppies during the night. Knowing that resistance was futile, Rainbow sighed. "Oh, okay," she groaned. "Just don't cram over each other, okay?" Upon hearing this, the Wonder Pugs smiled and snuggled themselves under Rainbow's belly. Fleetfoot was resting an inch away from the pony's hind legs. Spitfire sat in front of her. Rapidfire went in the lead of both his sisters, and Soren lay closest to Rainbow's head. Seeing Soren centimeters in the position he was in made Rainbow blush. It was as if the stallion of the puppy's namesake was sleeping next to her. But she tried not to let it bother her. Pinkie Pie's usage of the word boyfriend made her already riled up on that particular subject for today. The puppies all stretched themselves and gave off tiny, soft, yet squeaky audible yawns separately before going to sleep. Then, just as Pinkie Pie had predicted earlier, they began to snore. However, no matter how much the Wonder Pugs snored, Rainbow knew that she'll have to get used to it. Besides, the storm was able to block out the little ones snoring, though not by much. She should be grateful. Finally, she laid her head on the hay next to Soren and closed her eyes. But before she could catch a good snooze, she reopened them halfway and looked at the puppies. They were looking so peaceful, so content to be next to her. It looked like they were going to enjoy a very comfortable night now. Rainbow smiled and joined Tank and the Wonder Pugs in their slumber. Chapter 8. A Pug's Life at the Farm. Sunbeams were penetrating every nook and cranny of the barn's walls. The rooster gave out its usual crow. It was morning time. Rainbow had had a surprisingly good night. She didn't let the Wonder Pug's snoring or the thunder and lightning wake her up, not even once. And the puppies never flinched at the noise either. She gave a big yawn, slowly opened her eyes, and looked at the vacant green shell. "Morning, Tank," she said quietly. In response, the tortoise popped his head out of his shell and yawned. Then, Rainbow looked to her left and cooed, "Morning, Wonder Pugs." Suddenly, her eyes went wide in shock. The spot where the Wonder Pug slept next to her was completely empty. "Oh no!" gasped Rainbow. "Not again! Tank, we gotta find them!" Tank immediately activated the helicopter hat on his shell and took off onto the barn's supports. It was good to have some watchful eyes from above. "Spitfire?" Rainbow called out after searching through every interior of the haystacks. She looked behind a hay bale and cried, "Soren?" As she peered into one of the stables, she hollered, "Rapid fire?" After catching up with Tank on top and screamed through every hay lifter, she was on the brink of tears as she screamed, "Fleetfoot?" Just then, she heard a series of very faint yips. Then, there was a series of chicken clucking and sheep baaing. By the sound's proximity, it was coming from outside. She looked down and found the barn doors to be open. By now, it was all too clear about who let the pugs out. "Applejack!" Rainbow hissed ominously. She raced out of the barn, with Tank at her back, and suddenly stopped. "Huh?" she began, utterly shocked. "What the—" She couldn't believe what she was actually seeing. Over at the henhouse, Soren and Fleetfoot could be seen chasing chickens. Feathers were falling in all directions. The chickens were evidently not enjoying a running exercise of this sort. At the sheep pen, Rapid Fire and Spitfire were just running around and barking at numerous ewes. Whether the sheep were annoyed or just plain not amused, Rainbow couldn't tell. They just stood there. "Those pups sure love to have fun, don't they?" Rainbow, a bit surprised at first, looked to her right. Applejack was standing next to her with the Apple family dog Winona, clearly oblivious to her friend's stress. "Applejack!" she snapped. "Did you have to let the Wonder Pugs out of the barn?" "Oh, Applejack's face turned to one of embarrassment. "Yeah, I did. Without even waking me up first?" continued the temperamental blue Pegasus with the multicolor mane. "I was worried sick." "I'm mighty sorry about that, Rainbow," chuckled Applejack sheepishly. "Must have slipped my mind somewheres." She paused and took a cough, giving Rainbow the impression that this was a way to move on to a different topic. Her hunch proved correct. "Now, I owe you an explanation, right?" "Yup," answered a nearby big Macintosh. "Well," summarized Applejack, "y'all have seen what those puppies can do to make the chickens feel all riled up. Now, since they're pugs, I don't think they'd make pretty good sheepdogs. Bodies are too short for that kind of work." "Yeah, I think I get what you're saying here," said Rainbow. "Also—" Applejack moved her head close to Rainbow's and placed a hoof next to her mouth to utter a whisper. "We don't want Winona to get the wrong idea." Rainbow could see why Applejack mentioned that, and it was scaring her, almost as much as Opal's actions from yesterday. Winona was looking at the Wonder Pugs with inviolable eyes. She opened her mouth, showing gnashed teeth. She crouched herself into a hunting position, growling at her supposed competition. "Easy, girl," soothed Applejack, rubbing a hoof on Winona's head. "Easy. Don't you worry none. They're just visiting. Rainbow let out a sigh of relief as Winona's mood was set at ease. Applejack sure trained her dog to be obedient. I'll handle those pups for you, sis, volunteered Apple Bloom, who was running in between the sheep pen and the chicken coop. I'll work 'em up, no sweat. Apple Bloom, said Applejack, unsure of the situation. I don't know if that's such a good... Here, Pug, 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 called Apple Bloom. Here, Pug. Suddenly, seconds after hearing her, the Wonder Pugs miraculously rushed over to Apple Bloom and knocked her to the ground, laying her with the usual licks for kissing. Hey, stop, chuckled Apple Bloom. Put them tongues back where you found them, and skedat. While watching the whole scene from a distance, Rainbow Dash remembered the Wonder Pugs playing with Sweetie Belle yesterday. I guess puppies are pretty good with kids, she told Applejack. Yup, answered Big Mac. Don't you think you ought to take these little critters to Fluttershy's? Asked Applejack. She'll know what to do with 'em. After hearing those words, Rainbow Dash, the best flyer in all Equestria, the pony that represented the element of loyalty, lost her patience. For the fourth and final time, no! She yelled in close proximity of Applejack's face. Out of almost all my best friends, Twilight, Pinkie Pie, Rarity, and now you, Applejack, do none of you remember that Fluttershy has too many animals to take care of? Not to mention a way to be more assertive now. She'll probably say no in my face. Oh, come on now, R.D., soothed Applejack. She ain't known for having a cold heart. You just gotta ask her somehow. I wish I could, A.J., Rainbow moped heavily. Fluttershy is the second to last I want to ask for puppy management. Applejack raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, second to last? What, you don't remember Derpy? It took Applejack 2 seconds before she answered. Oh, right. Every pony knew that Derpy Hooves, despite having a very good heart, was a cross-eyed Pegasus with an inescapable clumsiness. Anything she touched while on the job, she destroyed. Ever since that little mishap at Ponyville Town Hall, the mayor requested that Derpy be kept under watch of the police, so that they would be ready to intervene in case of emergency. Trusting her with 4 pug puppies would be like switching a barrel of apple cider with nitroglycerin. Listen, Rainbow Dash, said Applejack sternly. Fluttershy is the best pony who can take care of all sorts of animals, big or small, mammal or reptile, furry or feathery. I don't care what you say. If you want to find a home for those pups, she's the very pony you should take 'em to, no questions asked. Rainbow, taken aback from what Applejack had said to her, lowered her head. You're right, she sighed in defeat. Then she turned to her tortoise. We might as well march the Wonder Pugs out of here, Tank. Now just a cotton-picking minute here, partner, started Applejack. You can't have them pups leave without a little... Breakfast! Called out Granny Smith. Hearing that very word, the Wonder Pugs hopped off Apple Bloom and made their way to a cow which Granny Smith had brought out of the barn. Under the udder, there was a stool wide enough for all 4 puppies to hop on top of and suck the mammary glands. Delicious milk was waiting for them. Rainbow watched as the little pugs drank and drank and drank and drank until they were full. She never saw them this thirsty before. Yep, smiled Granny Smith. That'll keep the little whippersnappers energized for a long journey. Good luck with Fluttershy, R.D., said Applejack. Y'all gonna need it, I reckon. Thanks, A.J., replied Rainbow confidently. But she was feeling deeply nervous inside. Chapter 9. Homeward Bound at Fluttershy's. Rainbow was standing just in front of the door of Fluttershy's cottage as she thought back to what all of her friends had said yesterday and this morning. Maybe they were right to tell her that this was the best place for the Wonder Pugs. But why in the name of Princess Celestia did she try to keep avoiding the obvious answer over and over again? It wasn't like she didn't trust Fluttershy. She didn't want to have her bite off more than she could chew. That was what Twilight told her about when the Yellow Pegasus offered to watch the Cutie Mark Crusaders at her house. right? Still, there were no alternatives left. It was time to face the music and dance. Rainbow looked at Tank. Then she looked at the Wonder Pugs, who were standing right behind her. She took a deep breath and, after much hesitation, she knocked on the door. "Coming," called a somewhat quiet and cheerful voice from inside. Fluttershy opened the door and looked at her fillyhood friend and the tortoise. "Oh, hello, Rainbow Dash," she said in her characteristically gentle manner. "And hello to you too, Tank. I was just leaving to get some food for my animal friends. I didn't expect to see you here so early today." "Fluttershy," began Rainbow slowly, "I need your help on something." "Oh my!" exclaimed Fluttershy, a worried look on her face. "Is Tank's throat sore again?" "It's not Tank, actually," explained Rainbow. "It's—" Just then, she was interrupted by a faint yawn at her rear. She looked back and instantly discovered that the noise came from Soren, who was about to lie down and doze in the sun. Fluttershy gave out a big gasp and rushed past Rainbow with such haste to meet the Wonder Pugs. "Are those puppies? Pugs?" she asked excitedly. "Bingo," answered Rainbow sarcastically. "You've just won free tickets to the Wonderbolts, Derpy." "Oh, I've always wanted to meet dogs like them. They're so sweet, so cuddly, so fuzzy." The last time Rainbow saw Fluttershy like this, it was when the former had said she wanted a pet, and that led to her owning Tank. "Aww," lavished Fluttershy as the Wonder Pugs kissed her all over. "You're the cutest little puppies ever." Just then, her expression changed to one of shock and concern. Rainbow could tell that she was looking at the puppies' name tags. "Oh my goodness! You don't have license! Rainbow!" she said, turning to the blue Pegasus. "We have to find their owners and tell them to—" "Fluttershy!" cut in Rainbow. "The Wonder Pugs don't have an owner. That's why I came to you in the first place." After explaining everything, she concluded with the most difficult question she had been meaning to ask Fluttershy since the last afternoon. "Can you please take care of them?" There, she said it. Yes, it was harder to even speak those words out, but she had managed. In fact, she never thought she could say it so convincingly. Now here came the hardest part of all. She shut her eyes and looked away, bracing herself for the inevitable, cold, and assertive answer Fluttershy would give. "Of course I will, Rainbow." Rainbow opened her eyes and looked at Fluttershy in total disbelief. "Fluttershy? Did you just say—" "Yes," replied Fluttershy. "I've never had to keep tiny dogs in my cottage before, but I've been preparing for this sort of thing." She turned to the Wonder Pugs and cooed. "Come on, little ones. In you go. This is your new home." The puppies barked, jumped for joy, and ran into the house. On the way, Fluttershy opened the back door, which led to the backyard with the picket fence, allowing her new pug friends to play outside without causing a mess. It was a good thing, Rainbow noticed, that the gate to the chicken coop was closed. It wouldn't be good to repeat what happened at Sweet Apple Acres. But then, Rainbow saw that the fence had no door. The path where it stood the backyard also stretched out into the meadow, and the meadow stretched out into the ever-free forest. She gulped real big, but tried not to let it show. "Fluttershy," she inquired anxiously, "are you sure you want to keep the puppies here? That path leads all the way to—" "I know," acknowledged Fluttershy. "Don't you worry, Dash. They won't get far. I'll keep a very close eye on them." Then she winked. Rainbow mopped her brow. "Whew," she said. "You had me worried there for a sec." Suddenly, she heard the Wonder Pugs yip frantically and saw them running right past her and Fluttershy as they entered back in the cottage, nearly knocking over Angel Bunny in the process. Angel, who was unhurt, looked a bit dazed and surprised as much as both Pegasi were. Tank was lucky to jump out of the way with his helicopter hat. All looked around to see what the Frightened little pug puppies were shaking under the couch. "What's wrong?" asked Fluttershy, almost at a loss for words. "I didn't see any bears, wolves, or any other dangerous animals coming." "Meow." Rainbow turned to her left and saw the little white kitten with the blue bow walking straight towards them. Then she returned her eyes to the whimpering Wonder Pugs. The answer became clear to her. These pugs had never seen cats before, until quite recently. "They had a little trouble with Opal yesterday," she said to Fluttershy, reluctantly remembering. "She nearly scratched them." "Oh, you poor puppies," soothed Fluttershy, leveling her head on the floor to get a better view of the tiny curly-tailed creatures. "It's okay. This little kitty's not going to hurt you." The puppies, now more unsure than frightened, didn't budge, except by tilting their heads. Fluttershy smiled warmly. "You can trust me." Then, almost as if by magic, the puppies went back into their excited selves, ran out of the underside of the couch, and resumed their playtime in the backyard. "I guess you're the best choice after all, Fluttershy," said Rainbow, looking somewhat ashamed for all of the previous mishaps. "I should have come to you sooner." "Oh, don't be upset, beamed Fluttershy. "I'm just glad you managed to keep the puppies safe. And you too, Tank," she rapidly added, noticing the tortoise right next to her. The yellow Pegasus wasn't wrong there. Rainbow and Tank had been able to look out for the Wonder Pugs, even while failing in selecting the perfect home yesterday. They made a pretty good team, no mistake about that. Now that the little puppies were living at Fluttershy's, nothing could possibly go wrong. Suddenly, Rainbow's heart sank. She was happy to find the Wonder Pugs a home, but now she was going to miss them. They were almost like their children or something. She didn't know what to think of them as in a positive way. She looked down on the floor, her heart starting to feel somewhat uneasy. Water formed in her eyes. A tiny stream slowly flowed across each cheek. "Fluttershy," she whimpered softly, "you're the closest thing I've ever had to a sister. I know you'll take good care of the Wonder Pugs. You've got everything you need for them. Just let me say goodbye to them before I go, okay?" The Cyan Pegasus failed to anticipate Fluttershy's reaction to this request. One moment, she stared at her. The next, she giggled softly. "Rainbow Dash, just because you're going to leave the Wonder Pugs doesn't mean you'll never see them again. You can come by to visit any time you like, when you're free. I just know they'll be thinking about you every day." Rainbow's tears were flowing a little faster than before. Her mouth quivered. Then she gave a small smile. With much speed, she pulled Fluttershy into a warm, tight embrace. "Oh, thank you so much, Fluttershy," she sobbed. "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." From behind her, Rainbow heard Fluttershy's meek voice. Rainbow Dash? Not too hard, please?" Immediately, the two ponies broke from each other. "Oops," Rainbow laughed sheepishly. "Sorry." Just then, she put a hoof to her mouth and whistled out. The Wonder Pugs answered immediately to her call as they ran toward her, yipping and jumping before filing themselves in a column of 4. Proud to see the puppies this way, Rainbow stood up and said, "Wonder Pugs, I want you to know how happy I am to have found you a good home. I trust Fluttershy here with my life. She's very good at handling animals like you." Then, she turned to her previously emotional side, but without the tears. "Spitfire, Fleetfoot, Rapidfire, Soren, I'm gonna miss every one of you." This made the Wonder Pugs cry for a few seconds before Rainbow Dash continued. "But don't worry, Tank and I'll be visiting with you every chance we get. Right, Tank?" The tortoise smiled and gave a slow nod. Instantly, the Wonder Pugs barked with a sense of restored morale and, like a whole army, launched themselves at Rainbow, causing her to fall on her back. As of yesterday, they were hogging her with kisses. All right, she laughed. Take it easy. We've only met for a day. Just then, Rainbow heard Fluttershy chuckle at her predicament. She couldn't blame the yellow Pegasus for not trying to stop herself from doing so. It didn't take long before the Wonder Pugs turned their playful attention to Angel, giving him such a running exercise he would never forget. At least these puppies were harmless, but it would take some time for him to accept that, and both ponies knew that for sure. Chapter 10. Epilogue. Dear Princess Celestia, I've learned how important it is to go to the right friend for help. You might think that they might be having enough work to do, but they're the only realistic choice you've got. You should expect that there are no limits to someone as experienced with animals as Fluttershy. Even if she's beginning to stand up for herself, she'll always be there whenever you need a favor. From now on, I'll try not to waver away from the obvious again. Signed, Rainbow Dash. The following early afternoon, Rainbow, Rarity, Applejack, Twilight, and Fluttershy were at the park, talking about the 2 days of events. Pinkie Pie was running a little late, but the others didn't mind. They knew she would make it before the picnic was over. Not far away, the Cutie Mark Crusaders, Sweetie Belle, Apple Bloom, and Scootaloo, and Pipsqueak from Trottingham were playing with the Wonder Pugs. Apple Bloom tagged along with Fleetfoot, Sweetie Belle, Soren, Pipsqueak, Rapidfire, and Scootaloo, Spitfire. Every time each foal caught up with their puppy, they would be outsmarted, lose sight of them, and before they knew it, be knocked down and licked before resuming their games. Tank made sure that they were playing safe. It wasn't long before he got his share of kisses too. Rainbow watched the activity from the spot she was sitting. She couldn't be any prouder of the Wonder Pugs. It was good to have them around kids, teaching them the values of having a pet in the future. Just then, Pinkie rushed in with a copy of the Full Free Press, looking very excited. "Hey, Rainbow Dash!" she exclaimed. "Wonder Pugs, looky here! You've made the front page!" Pinkie's words reached the foals and yipping Wonder Pugs, causing them to speed right over to read. "Huh?" asked Rainbow, raising an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" "It's right over here," smiled Pinkie, showing the front page to her friend. Rainbow took the paper and was surprised to find a photograph of her being kissed by the Wonder Pugs at the scene where she rescued them. Underneath it read, "Photo taken by Scootaloo." Rainbow gave a glance at the little orange Pegasus filly, who smiled with pride at her accomplishment. Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom joined in. Seconds later, Rainbow found out why all the extra beaming. The story she read was even more of a shocker. My Little Puggy, Rainbow Dash Saves Puppies, written by Gabby Gums. 2 days ago, last Saturday, the one and only Rainbow Dash was seen rescuing 4 tiny little pug puppies that were stuffed into a sack and tossed over the Ponyville Bridge into Saddle Lake. The splash was heard only about 5 miles away from the photographer. Shortly after, Rainbow Dash christened the puppies as Wonder Pugs, each given a name of a few famous Wonderbolts, Spitfire, Rapidfire, Soren, and Fleetfoot. With the assistance of her trusty tortoise, Tank, she was able to find shelter for the night at Sweet Apple Acres and devotedly stayed in the little rascal's company. The Wonder Pugs are now living in the cottage of the ever-lovable Miss Fluttershy, as confirmed yesterday by Miss Applejack. The other eyewitnesses will be questioned for details for their encounters with such loving little angels. As to the nature of how the Wonder Pugs fell overboard, police officers reported seeing this town's dangerous and least reliable mail pony, Miss Derpy Hooves, carelessly placing the sack on the left side of the bridge and leaving it there while finding lunch. The puppies were meant to be delivered to the animal shelter, her papers read, until found a suitable owner. As usual, those very officers arrested her shortly after she ate. It was fortunate that Rainbow Dash came to the rescue. Otherwise, Miss Hooves would have been held at the police station for neglect of duty. Rainbow lowered the paper to show her look of contempt so that every pony could see. "I guess we found out who that nut is," she sighed. "A very careless nut, if you ask me." "Oh, come now, Rainbow Dash," protested Rarity. "From what we know of Derpy, careless would be putting it mildly." "Still," said Rainbow, "it's nice to see the Wonder Pugs have their first picture taken." "And we owe it all to you girls to thank for it," Twilight pointed out to the Cutie Mark Crusaders, making them blush. As Pipsqueak read the article, he exclaimed, "Wow! Keep this up, Sweetie Belle, and you'll be editor-in-chief for sure." Sweetie Belle's face turned redder than Scootaloo and Apple Bloom's altogether. She gave out a sheepish giggle before replying, "Oh, thanks, Pipsqueak." "So, do you think you can all give us more details on what happened with the Wonder Pugs days ago?" asked Scootaloo. "We already got the stories at Sweet Apple Acres in the Carousel Boutique," confirmed Apple Bloom. "I reckon all we need is the whole shebang. Well, all that you have to say," she added. "Don't want to make a scandal or anything." "Okie dokie Loki," chirped Pinkie Pie. "Sure," said Fluttershy quietly. "Absolutely," agreed Twilight. "Y'all got it," Applejack affirmed. "Ask away, darlings," lavished Rarity. Rainbow looked back at the paper and reread the headline. "Hey," she chuckled. "Look at that. My Little Puggy. That sounds pretty cute." Then, the whole world stopped at once. Rainbow felt emptiness for a few seconds. Then, she realized what had happened and saw every pony else was staring at her, their expressions blank. Even Tank was surprised. The Wonder Pugs, on the other hand, just smiled and panted, unaware of their rescuer's reputation whatsoever. Feeling her cheeks go warm, Rainbow finally asked, "I didn't just say that, did I?" There was another pause, and then every pony laughed out of control. All the Wonder Pugs jumped at Rainbow and kissed her all over. "Maybe," thought Rainbow, as the puppies' tongues made contact with her face, "cute isn't such a bad thing after all." The end. Well, I gotta admit that is one cute story. Has to be one of the cutest stories I have ever read. I don't know what to say. I mean, that was beautiful. Very well written, and, few typos here and there, but I enjoyed it a lot. It's not every day that I read stories like this, and I'm glad that I found this story, or was recommended to read this story, because it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reading as much as I did, and I hope to do another one soon. So, until next time, Dark Shadow here, signing off.